What's up, everybody? I'm Matt.
And I'm Beth.
And today we're going to be reviewing the interior in the 2023 Lexus RX350H. So the RX is all new here for the 2023 model year, and it's a really nice improvement here for this new generation version. They completely redid everything. It's totally new from the ground up, and this interior got a huge upgrade into the next generation here with this massive screen and lots of nice plush materials and cool designs. And overall, I think it makes a really great first impression.
Yeah, it's really great. I think that it's really cool how, especially this specific one, is all brown on the inside, and I think the colors are all really cohesive, and I think it looks really great together.
Yeah, and it's great they're offering colors too. I mean, a dark brown, yeah, it looks so classy and just timeless almost. And you can also get a normal beige, you can get black, you can get a red leather interior if you'd like. And yeah, I think especially paired up with this like open pore wood you have here, it's not a ton of it, but the little bit you have in the wheel and on the dash is different enough. So it's not just a normal black interior.
Right, and that's what I love the most about these.
So anyway, first thing, sitting down in the seats here of the RX. So they're nice perforated semi-aniline leather seats here in this luxury trim, which is one of the top trims here of the 350H. And this one, by the way, is around $64,000. But these seats are super soft and comfortable, really nice, and you do have a little bit of the like Alcantara suede type of material here on the edges just to kind of hold you in place a little bit better, but they're really just so comfortable. They also have all the adjustments. You have even a thigh extension, which is really nice to have, along with all the other usual stuff, the lumbar adjustment and all that. And they're heated and ventilated seats, and here in the summer we were testing out the ventilation, and at least in my opinion they worked really well. They work even better if you're extra sweaty, but even if you're not super sweaty, you're just a little bit hot, they did a really good job of getting cold both for the bottom and the back, in my opinion, and were really nice.
And one thing that maybe might not be that great for you is that whenever we decided to turn on the car, it did turn on the cooled seats automatically. I think that's pretty nice, but I guess it just depends. Sometimes you might not like that, and I don't know if you can turn it off or anything, but that wasn't like the coolest thing for me. Sometimes I was like, whoa, I don't want to be extra cold. So that's definitely interesting. And also the cool thing about the passenger seat is that it does have every single adjustment that the driver's seat has. So I think it's really great. I mean, the passenger is sometimes a passenger princess, so I think it's really great.
Yeah, and also getting back to those auto climate controls for the seats there, that is something you can turn off, by the way, if you don't like it doing that. But yeah, you're right, sometimes it like guesses correctly and it's like, yes, I would like my cold seat. Other times it's like, nope, I don't want that, and you just turn it off. But thankfully it's really nice and easy to control it through the screen here. Those are permanent controls on that lower part of the screen that never moves, so it's just literally one tap away to mess with that if you want. So thankfully it's not buried in some menu system like some other companies tend to do. But anyway, moving on to the steering wheel here in the RX. It's a really great wheel, has a great 9-3 grip and nicely leather wrapped, and has the wood here. Just a really expensive and just nice wheel to put your hands on, honestly. And it does have a few buttons here, and it's pretty simplified with the buttons set up. The strange thing though is that the buttons are keyed up to the head-up display. So the head-up display they rely on heavily here in all these new generation Lexus products, so that you just see these controls on the steering wheel just have arrows, and you have to look up the head-up display, and that's how you turn on and off your adaptive cruise control system and change the speed. Everything is based on the head-up display here, and it's a cool futuristic thing, but I think that sometimes it's a little overwhelming because there's so much that it's trying to display on the head-up display. And also on top of that, the fact that whenever you're wearing polarized sunglasses you can barely see it means that whenever you're trying to make these adjustments with the steering wheel controls, you're not able to really see what you're doing very well. And there's been a couple of times where I just had to take my sunglasses off to like adjust the speed and see how fast I'm setting the cruise control for, and then put my sunglasses on. I don't love that it's fully relying on that. Now you can turn off the head-up display, and I guess it will start putting some of that info in the gauge cluster as well, but just not ideal in my opinion. I don't love the way they've done the head-up display here, and I still just wish it was a little more traditional with just a normal set of buttons here on the steering wheel. And moving on to the regular gauge cluster here though, it's a pretty small display, and that is one knock I have to say compared with all the other competitors which have fully digital large displays. This is kind of fully digital with the little lighted parts there for the fuel and the temp on the sides, but it's like an 8-inch display. And even Toyota in their normal like SUVs and crossovers has usually the 8-inch screen as a standard base thing, and then you go up even in regular Toys like a RAV4, you can get a 12-inch display. The RX offers no such option. So it's strange that a RAV4 can have a nicer gauge cluster than a Lexus. You know, it's fine, you know, it's very blacked out, so it does a good job of being seamless and making it feel like it's bigger than it is. But, you know, it just doesn't have much customization either as a result of it being so small, and again, being so reliant on the head-up display where you just have, you know, the little scroller there on the bottom and it shows you a few basic things and that's it. I'm guessing that's something they're going to have to upgrade that in a year or two because it just doesn't compare favorably with the competition or even stuff within Toyota. But that's the only head scratcher here. I mean, it works fine and it's not a big deal, but it's just, you know, an interesting choice that they certainly made, and I just had to point that out here. But anyway, moving on to the really good tech here in the vehicle is this 14-inch touchscreen, which is so well done. I love the way they set this up because you still have a massive CarPlay display. It's wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, by the way. It connected flawlessly every single time, and it connected really fast. Some other vehicles take 15 or 20 seconds sometimes when you first turn the car on in the morning to, like, you know, connect and actually get seamless and not laggy and stuff, whereas this, I literally, like, as soon as I press the power button, it like comes on and it's right there and it's immediately snappy and responsive. And that's not easy to do these days, at least in 2023. So that's really impressive, and it's so high resolution too, and just looks great. But then I love that you have all the real estate you need for that, but you still have this dedicated row of climate controls, 2 rows actually, and it's all logically arranged, very clear and easy. I love how you have the physical controls there for your climate, you know, with the knobs with a little, you know, screen built into them. It's just a really great look. And Lexus and Toyota's infotainment system here with, you know, what you do whenever you're not using the Apple CarPlay is also pretty simple and straightforward, but it mostly takes a backseat to that smartphone integration because they know that's what everyone's going to want to do.
And I'm one of those people who love buttons, especially when it comes to climate control. So I'm like really happy that they do have these toggles and that it's permanently on the screen, so I could just press anything anytime I want, and it's just so easy to use. And
also there's a few other little handy things, like there's a little shortcut thing here. You can press this, and a lot of the stuff that you use on a regular basis, it can offer those up for you with a frequently used section here, which is really smart. And I love this, especially when you compare it to a lot of the German competitors they have all kinds of sub-menus and confusing screens. You have to do 3 different dives into a menu in order to get to something. This is so well done. I absolutely love this new setup, and it's just, I can't praise it enough. But anyway, moving on past the screen here, it's also hooked up to this awesome Mark Levinson stereo, which is an option. This one does have it though. It's 21 speakers and 1800 watts of power, and it is fantastic. It's a really good sounding stereo, definitely towards the top of the pack from a sound quality standpoint. It sounds so good, and if you're a music lover, you're definitely going to want to make sure you get that as well. Right beneath that, you'll see, first off, a volume knob, which is great to have a center mounted volume knob. We forgot to mention that with the screen here, but a lot of other companies are doing this driver centric thing and all that. But unless you're talking about a sports car, typically you're going to be carrying passengers, and it's nice that they thought about those passengers. Another thing that really impressed me with this interior this week is the amount of padding that you have. Everything is really soft and plush, and yes, we're talking about a Lexus. You expect that this is a luxury vehicle, but that's also not a given all the time. And like one standout thing that really I love is the fact that you have a ton of padding down by your knee area here. And a lot of the other stuff, even Mercedes and BMW and stuff, don't always have this area padded. And some others go cheap, where they'll pad a little bit of it, they'll pad the top of it, but not the side. So depending on where your knee's at, you may or may not get lucky with having padding. But this, they went all the way back to the center armrest, and they could have stopped there. There's a cut point here, but they didn't. They continued to go all the way into the back seat area here, and that is still padded. No one is ever going to touch this. It's literally right up against the seat here. No one's going to touch this, but they still went to the trouble of padding all of this, every single inch. And so little touches like that make me think, you know, they really went the extra mile with making sure this interior felt premium regardless of where your seating position is, you know, where you use this vehicle, how you use it. It's just, they wanted to make sure that it was really just coddling you in luxury in all the ways. And I just that again is something that's rare in the automotive industry, to have stuff that goes that far back with the padding. And you know, it just shows they didn't try and cut corners here with the RX.
Yeah, it's very cohesive in all of that, and it's so nice to just see one piece of this leather material and have it continue even though there's a break, instead of have the break and then just have a plastic piece that's the same exact color. I love that.
Yeah, and they could have totally done that so easily, so it's great they did.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to storage space here in the RX, they did a really good job with that too. So in the doors, you have these huge pockets with a really big bottle holder. In the middle here, you have a little shallow tray next to your USB-C jacks. Then you have this deeper one here, which does have a cover if you don't want to see it, but it has a nice wireless charging pad here. And it actually does have a little ledge here that really holds my phone in nicely. And so while it didn't make perfect contact all week, it did keep my phone charging on the charger way more than most other wireless charging pads in other vehicles. So I think this is one of the better implementations I've seen, and you have a really deep cubby there right next to it as well.
One thing I would have loved to see though is a little pass-through, because there's so many cars right now that have those little pass-throughs, so you have like an extra little cubby for some more things, and I feel like that definitely could have been implemented in here. But overall, I think it's still a great amount of space in front here.
And then you also have 2 cup holders and the center armrest, and the great thing about it, in addition to being nice and softly padded, is that it does open up on both sides. So there's a button for the driver and the passenger, which is great. Again, keeping this vehicle passenger friendly, something a lot of other vehicles do not take into account, and so I love that they did this. And it's nice deep with a cubby there too. You can fit lots and lots of stuff in there. Moving on to the back seat here in the RX, also really nice and spacious. You have a longer wheelbase now here for the new RX, so that opened up a lot of interior space. And so me being 5'9", sitting behind myself, I still have several inches of legroom to spare. Very spacious. I mean, the last generation RX was also a pretty nice spacious vehicle, but I think this is even just a little bit better in that regard. You have a good amount of headroom as well. I also love this huge panoramic roof that not only has a cover on it, but also opens and closes. Those rear seat passengers also get their own air vents back there, as well as their own climate controls, along with USB-C jacks and their own heated and ventilated seats back there as well, which again is something that some of the other high-end companies do offer, but it's not something that everyone offers. And so it's really great that, you know, and this is also not the top version of the RX either. There's the RX 500 and all that, but this just being a 350, to have an option for cooled second row seats is really nice. And you know, maybe a little bit extra for some people, but I think, you know, if you have backseat passengers that would appreciate that on a regular basis, this could really put this over some of the other competitors that don't offer that. And you also have sunshades back there, so it's very baby friendly if you're going to use it for that. And you know, nice pockets in those doors as well. There's a fold down center armrest with cup holders built into it and an extra little cubby there as well. And so just really chock full of features back there for those rear seat passengers as well. And then moving on to the trunk space here in the RX, it's also just a really good amount of space. It's nice and wide, nice and long. Now here in the hybrids in particular, you don't have any kind of storage underneath the floor there because of the battery pack, but you do have a nice size spare tire still, which is also getting more and more rare these days. And the fact that Lexus is giving you a spare tire here is great. So happy to see that. Honestly, I'd rather have that over and a little bit of extra storage, so I'm really happy to see that you have that here. And so just a really well done cargo area as well. But anyway, that's all of our thoughts here on the interior in the RX. Overall, I think they did a great job on it. It's nice and spacious in here. It's just lots of tech, lots of good stuff. You know, if they just did a little tweak there to the gauge cluster and maybe the head-up display, I think it could be basically perfect. But even as it is, I think I'd be totally happy with this. Like I said, the gauge cluster doesn't bother me. You could use the head-up display. It's not the end of the world. Don't let those things be deal breakers. If that's stuff that does sound a little odd to you, I don't think it should ruin what is otherwise a really great interior and a really great vehicle overall. And if you're curious to hear all the thoughts on what kind of fuel economy I was getting here in the 350, we did a separate video covering what it's like to live with this vehicle for a week. And also check out my other RX review video for all of my coverage on all the versions of the RX if you're still shopping between the 350h and the regular 350 and the 500 and the 450h. There's a lot to choose from here, a lot of information, so check out that other video for a really good comparison breakdown of exactly what you get with each trim and each model, and find which one's right for you. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Let us know your thoughts on this interior in the comments below, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Take care.